All righty. Welcome everyone to Rev Up. We should probably get started. It is 11:01. We have a lot of information to cover, and I'm excited. This is a good lesson. So we are covering, did I share my screen? I did. Fabulous. We are covering the sales cycle and effective client communication today. So this is an exciting one that we will get moving on. Hold on, let me just rearrange my windows a little bit so I can see everybody. And I am attempting to watch the chat box. So if you put something in the chat box, I will attempt to watch it and see it. However, please feel free to always interrupt me. If you have questions, unmute yourself, raise your hand, although sometimes I can't always see your picture, but just feel free to be like, hey, Amy, stop. I've got a question about that. Totally appropriate. We have a lot of really good information today. So let's go ahead and hop in with our Rev Up session number 4, module number 4, the sales cycle, effective communication. We are going to cover today the 7 steps in the sales cycle, objection handling techniques, effective communication in sales, and utilizing the DISC assessment, right? The personality profile. The 7 steps in the sales cycle, you should picture these like a ladder, right? And we are going to start at the bottom and work through each client, starting at step number 1 and working our way up to the top. And it's important to exercise the muscle of patience. Sometimes it's really easy to start trying to skip steps. So step number 1 is we have to prospect for leads. Right? You guys are going to get sick of me saying lead generate, lead generate, lead generate, lead generate. But without lead generation, you have no business. I promise. No business without lead generation. So step 1 in a 7-step sales cycle is to lead generate. Step 2 is you're going to make the appointment or build rapport, qualify, and needs analysis consultation would be step number 3. Number 4 would be the loyalty, commitment, or representation agreement. Step number 5 would be we are going to meet their needs and deliver on our promises. Step number 6 is we are going to close the transaction, right? Contract to close. And step number 7 is our post-sale follow-up, communication, and referrals, right? So if we look at this like a staircase, our goal is we're going to get them to the top, and then ultimately they kind of start back at the bottom again as we throw them back into our CRM, our contact relationship manager. Once they reach the top, we're going to pop them back in and we're going to cultivate them again to turn them into transactions. Okay. We can't jump from the bottom to the top. So you got to take each step in time and in a systematic approach. So step 1, again, we're going to prospect for leads. If you're lost at how to prospect, keep in mind that we did our 12 days of lead generation. You can find that on the YouTube channel. Go back and watch 11 of the 12 days. Because apparently when Abby left me for Christmas vacation, I failed to record one of them. So you're missing out on networking groups, but all the others were recorded. So you can watch 11 of the 12 days of lead gen to figure out what you should do to generate leads. You should be lead generating for both buyers and listings. Your business should be listing focused. We should be trying to be heavy on the listing sides because listings help us generate their own referrals and their own leads. So we have leads from listings. Today on the sales cycle, though, we're going to focus really in on the buyer side of the transaction, although the seller side isn't too different from that. So lots of different ways to prospect for leads: door knocking, circle prospecting, referrals. Circle prospecting would be like cold calling, just for the record, open houses, internet farm, circle of influence, right? Or sphere of influence, mailers, social media, networking. So lots of different options there. That covers about, 10 different options. There's probably another 20 different things that aren't mentioned there. So there's lots of different ways to lead generate. Keep in mind too, there's no one wrong or right way to lead generate. As we move through Rev Up, we're really going to touch on open houses and farming. In the 12 days of lead gen, we covered 12 other ways to lead generate as well. Methods is the word I was looking for there. 12 methods. of lead generation. And there's lots of others. There's no one wrong or right. It's going with the methods that you choose to move forward with. And again, you should choose 5 methods for lead generation when you look at your business plan for the year. One should be your sphere of influence, or that circle of influence, which would be your database. Okay, dive into that database, get all your people in your database and dive into it in a systematic process. And then you should be generating leads from listings. So anytime you have a listing, you should be generating additional leads from that listing. Outside of those 2 things, you should select 3 other methods. One that's going to be your primary. You're going to develop most of your systems and processes, and you're going to master that primary lead gen while dabbling in the other 2. Once you've mastered that primary lead gen, you're consistent in it, it's proving its return, then you can begin developing systems and processes and mastering a second additional leg of lead generation. So lots of different options there, but we want to lead generate. Please make sure you put this on your calendar. We want to time block for lead generation. You should time block on a daily basis for lead generation. And here's the catch to that, right? I would recommend putting on your calendar 2 to 3 hours a day of lead gen. This isn't follow-up. This isn't, I'm going to get distracted and mess with transactions. This isn't, I'm going to get distracted and start posting on social media. This is true lead generation, whether it's door knocking, whether it's prepping for your open house, whether, whatever that might be. You can determine what your goals are for the week. So your goal may be, hey, I'm just going to be consistent in lead generating. And at the beginning, it may be, hey, I'm going to lead generate 1 hour a day, 5 days a week. Once I'm consistent in that, I'm going to start adding a second hour. Or you may decide that, hey, I want to talk with 10 people a day about real estate. And that's going to be my lead generation. And once I've made it to 10, even if I've got 2 hours time blocked and I do it in an hour, I can stop. Right? Or it could be, hey, I'm going to lead generate until I set an appointment, right? A buyer or a listing appointment. I'm going to just keep plugging away. I've got to fulfill all of those until I set 2 appointments for this next week, right? So you can determine how you want to set up your lead generation, what your goals are for that, whether it's time-based, whether it's a results-based. There's no one wrong or right answer. If you're like, man, every week I'm going to set 2 appointments, and you get on the phone on Monday and you set those 2 appointments, you could be done lead generating for the rest of the week, right? Just know what your goals are, know what your numbers are, know what your intentions are for the week. All right. Our step 2 in our sales cycle. Does anybody have any questions about that, about lead generation, prospecting for leads? No? All right. Moving on. Step number 2 is we're going to make appointments to meet. Again, we're going to focus really on the buyer side of things rather than the listing side of things. So our goal 1 is to get face-to-face. Okay? It's a contact sport. It's a relationship sport. The faster you can get in front of people, the faster you can build those relationships, right? It's really easy if we're just like sending text messages or sending direct messages on social media for somebody to bail on us. It's much harder if we can get them face-to-face. So we want to get them face-to-face for the appointment. For a buyer, we're going to do what we call a buyer consultation appointment, right? We're going to walk them through how the home buying process works. We're going to make sure we have the same expectations if they've already purchased a home before. If they're a first-time home buyer, we're really going to go through that process. We're going to figure out what their needs are, what their wants, what their desires, what their time frame is, right? So we want to make sure that we get in front of them and that we meet with A or A+ prospects. And if we look at what that time frame looks like, we're going to define it as somebody who is an A or an A+ contact is somebody who is ready, willing, and able to purchase. Okay, there may be somebody that's willing and able, but they're not quite ready. Maybe their lease doesn't expire for 7 months. Maybe they're in the middle, they're pregnant and they're getting ready to have a baby. And they're like, man, I don't really want to move in the next 2 months. I want to wait until like the baby's 3 months old, right? So there could be lots of things feeding into being ready versus willing and able, right? So we want to make sure they have all 3 of those. We don't want to sit down with somebody that has no money in their bank account, right? Because they're not going to be able to purchase a home. So if they're like, man, I really want to buy a home, but man, I'm not even sure I'm getting kicked out of my rental. I'm not even sure I've got a deposit for the next rental. right? Red flag, maybe they're not quite able to buy. Maybe they're ready and willing, but they're not able, right? So we want to make sure all three conditions are met. An A+ buyer, somebody who's ready, willing, or able, ideally would be looking to purchase in the next 30 days or less. B would be somebody that's looking to purchase in 30 days to 6 months, right? 2 to 6. And C would be somebody more than 6 months. So as you look at putting people in your database, there's like a way you can score or rate your people in there, as well as you can create tags for them. Or group them. So we may want to group them in something similar to this. Okay. When we sit down and meet with people, we want to make sure to meet in the office, right? It's safety, it's professionalism. Don't go sit at a coffee shop. Don't go meet them at their house, wherever they're renting, especially if you don't know these people. Meet them at the office. We've got plenty of office space available. Invite them to the office, reserve a spot, and sit down with them in a nice professional setting. This is really important, especially if you've got like internet leads or people that you haven't connected with previously. Is if you're meeting them at a house to show them property, you're meeting them in a vacant location where nobody else is there. You're putting yourself in a security risk as far as personal safety goes. Okay. So we're going to meet them at the office. Our goal is that we're going to pre-qualify our buyers before we sit down with them, right? This goes back to sitting down with ready, willing, and able buyers. What is the time frame, right? So we want to have a conversation with them, set the appointment, and then get these questions answered. And it doesn't matter whether you have them answered in like we're going through the list, or whether through conversation and relationship we've gotten these answered. We just want to make sure we have these answered so that we can go into it with expectations. What is your time frame? Ideally, how soon would you like this to happen? Right? Are you thinking, hey, in the next month? Are you thinking like 2 to 6 months? Right? Are you thinking sometime later this year? Or are you thinking maybe in the next couple of years? Right? Get their idea of a time frame. Do they have a home to sell first? Right? Oh my gosh, look, we could secure a listing transaction and a buyer transaction all at the same time. So do you have a home to sell first? If their answer is yes, we want to know, is it currently on the market? If it's on the market, does it already have an offer in on it? Right? It's not uncommon to have somebody list a house and use somebody else to do their purchase transaction. That usually comes down to education, which we'll get to here in a minute, but most people aren't educated in the process that the same agent that's listing a property can also help somebody purchase a property. And so we want to make sure that our potential clients know that we can do both parts of a transaction. Will you be paying all cash or arranging for financing? Right? And if they're financing, have you met with a lender yet? Have you gotten pre-approved or pre-qualified? If no, then we want to make a lender recommendation to them. Remember, anytime we I'm tripping over my words today. Anytime we refer somebody to a potential client, we want to make 3 referral choices. Okay, there's no wrong or right answer to who you put on your referral list and who you don't. Usually put the one that you really want them to use on the top. Most people go with the top option. Just a little heads up on that, a little trick. And we should have relationships with lenders and know what their specialties are. What are their ideal clients? Do you have somebody that can deal with somebody who's like challenged in their credit, can maybe help them with credit repair? Do you have somebody that can knock out VA loans without like a second thought? Do you have somebody that specializes in down payment assistance programs? Do you have somebody that just really squares away those like A+ buyers and can knock those out in 10 days or 14 days? Maybe have a bank on your list, get some relationships with some local banks, because sometimes our clients like to do business with banks, right? So we want to make sure we have a whole array of options for them to choose from, and that we kind of know which way to direct them based on their situation. If they have gotten pre-approved, then perfect. Who are you pre-approved with? How long ago was that? Do you know what the loan type was? What the max pre-approved amount was? And anything else we should know about that pre-approval. If they're already pre-approved, we want to make sure we get that lender's information so that we can have a conversation with their lender up front. Okay. Please keep in mind that when you're shopping for a mortgage, somebody has 30 days to have their credit pulled multiple times by different lenders, and they are allowed to shop for a loan without it affecting their credit score. So if they're pre-approved with somebody and you're like, oh man, you're pre-approved with loans.com, I've got a great local lender, right? It's okay to refer them to your local lenders, and just reiterate the importance of being pre-qualified with somebody we can get a hold of, somebody that can maybe sit down with them and answer questions they might have, right? So it's okay to refer them to a local lender as well, even if they're already pre-approved. Step 3 is we are going to qualify them and do a needs analysis, right? Again, we're following those steps of the buyer process. We're going to follow them in order. It's a good idea to have the buyer do like a questionnaire type thing in your buyer presentation. We're going to meet for a consultation and further define the needs that buyer presentation should have, like kind of what are their must-haves, and we're going to further define what those look like. And then you want to find their pain points, because those pain points are their motivation. Why are they wanting to move? What's prompting them to keep looking when they're not finding the house that is going to match their needs? What's going to keep them moving forward when they get rejected, when we put an offer in on a property and it's just falling apart and we couldn't tell that from the outside and they want to just throw in the towel and quit? What can we remind them of that's going to help them keep moving them forward? Okay. Step 3. Okay. Step 4 is a loyalty commitment. You want to make sure that you get a buyer representation agreement signed, a buyer broker agreement. And why do I say that? Well, because most calls that I get from people that their buyers bail on them, they're like, Amy, the buyer, I've been out showing them property for months now, like property after, we've probably seen 50 properties. We'll talk about that later. And then they went and wrote an offer with another agent. Please protect yourself. Get a buyer representation agreement signed. Number one, it doesn't just protect you, but it outlines your obligations to them. It sets a professional relationship together, and it's an important step in the process. Okay, we can go over the buyer representation agreement in a future session and talk about how to explain that and walk somebody through that. It's not as scary as it sounds, but that's really the goal of it is, hey, here's our agreement. This defines our relationship as far as agent to client. And it also outlines what your expectations can be of me and what I can expect from you, right? Loyalty goes in both directions. Commit to professional standards for your business and real estate practice, right? Get it signed. Help buyers understand how representation is in their best interest, right? And a lot of times buyers don't understand that, hey, on a buyer transaction, for the most part, it's rarely ever that a buyer has to pay the commission. And so explaining that to them is also key in this process. Does anybody have a question about the loyalty commitment or buyer representation?
In the future, I would love like a little spiel on like a script to tell them, because I'm trying to say, like, the California Association of Realtors is asking us to have you do this. So it's like I'm putting blame on somebody else.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with blame on somebody else, but yeah, we'll absolutely go through that buyer broker agreement and talk about how to explain it to your clients and how to ask for it to be signed. Just so everybody knows, in just about every other state, it is required that you sign that up front with your agent. California does not require you to have an agency agreement in place before shopping for homes, which is silly, but we should make it our practice. Great. Step number 5, right? We're just moving right up that staircase or that ladder, is we are going to meet our clients' needs. So when we sit down with them, we want to clarify their needs. What are your must-haves, right? When shopping for a home, what is the most important thing that home's going to have? 3 bedrooms. Perfect. If I find a home that has 3 bedrooms, what else does that home need to have? Well, we'd like at least 2 bathrooms. All right. Perfect. 2 bathrooms. So 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. What's your third must have? Well, we don't have a lot of time, so we don't want a huge yard that we are going to spend every weekend maintaining, right? Or maybe we want a huge yard, or maybe we want a pool. So, right, so we want to clarify those needs. And sometimes it's important that as we're asking these questions, right, obviously when it comes to like, maybe you've got a couple that doesn't appear to have like kids or anything, and they're like, we want a 5-bedroom home. And you may be like, what's important to you about those 5 bedrooms? Right? Because it may be that, man, well, we want our bedroom and we want a guest bedroom. And then we need a couple of home offices, right? Or we both work from home. And then we know that, okay, well, we don't necessarily have to find a 5-bedroom home. It could be a 4-bedroom home or a 3-bedroom home with 2 bonus flex spaces, right? They don't necessarily have to have closets. Or, man, we're planning to adopt some kids, or we want to foster kids and we need to have additional bedrooms for those foster kids because they all have to have their own bedrooms, right? So figure out what's important to them about each of those features that they talk about. And keep in mind that if you're sitting down with a couple and the wife is sharing or the husband's sharing what his must-haves are and the other person's being pretty quiet, please make sure to turn your attention to the other person after that first person gives you their list and say, what's important to you about the home that you're about to buy, right? It's a decision for both people in a partnership. And oftentimes one person kind of takes the lead and says stuff and the other person's thoughts aren't shared. And if you don't define both people's thoughts and needs, I can guarantee you're going to have a hard time finding a home. Okay. So you want to clarify the needs, thoroughly understand those needs, take action routinely and consistently, right? So when it comes to the home buying process or the home search process, like we want to be in there looking at the homes every day on what's new on the market that matches their criteria so that we know exactly what's coming on and what might meet it so that we can send them messages. Hey, there's a new property coming on the market. It's coming soon. I'm going to see when we can get in there that I think will match your wants and needs, right? Your criteria. Or, hey, did you see that new home that just came on the market this morning? We want to be in there. When we're doing the home shopping process, if there's nothing new on the market, we don't ignore our buyers. We don't just like not talk to them for 2 weeks. We want to touch base with them every couple days and just be like, hey, Lonnie, I just wanted to give you an update. Like, there's just nothing coming on the market that matches what you guys are looking for in a home. Just know that I'm going to look, I know you guys want this specific neighborhood. I'm going to go door knock that neighborhood, or what action are you going to take to help them find a home that they couldn't do themselves on Zillow, right? Be the go-to agent and just deliver to them just, hey, I'm looking, I'm searching, I'm talking to the agents in my office. It may be as simple as that. Like, hey, I'm just throwing, some need posts out there to the other agents in my office to see if anybody's got a home that matches what you're looking for. Like, just be proactive and be in contact with them routinely and consistently. In addition to that, set expectations with your clients. Set expectations that you aren't going to be answering your phone at 10 o'clock at night. Okay. Set those expectations that, hey, I work regular business hours, or just so you know, in the afternoon between 3 and 4, I'm picking up my kids from school because that's something that's really important to me. So if I'm not available from 3 to 4, you can make sure that I'll get back to you. Just leave me a message if you need something and I'll get back to you between 4 and 4:30, right? Set those expectations ahead of time. What days do you work? Do you have one day that's maybe like a holy day to you that you don't work? How is that going to be covered? If they want to see a property on that day, do you have somebody in place? Do you have somebody else in the office you can pay to go open doors for you, right? What does that look like? If you're getting ready to go on vacation. Okay, so here, I made a really big error. Okay, I live in North Idaho. I was getting ready to move and I had sat down with a client and I had not told him that I was moving yet because he was really looking like he was getting deployed and he wasn't going to be back for a couple months. So I figured I would approach it with him once he returned. However, in the first week of his deployment, he goes, oh my gosh, Amy, I think I found the property. Can we go see it? And I'm like, moving truck leaves tomorrow. He's not going to put an offer on this property. It's not a big deal. So went, showed the property. We put in an offer on the property, offer gets accepted. And I didn't have the heart at that point to be like, by the way, I moved, right? Because I was still doing all the contract negotiation and everything. So I just told him I was out of town. It was a little white lie. I still feel guilty about it. At some point I'll apologize to him Anyways, be upfront and honest. If you're getting ready to go on vacation, if you're getting something's going on, be upfront and honest and let them know how that's going to be covered. Okay. Communicate frequently. That's that same thing. Take action routinely and consistently, like, right, help them find homes, meet their needs, and then also just communicate frequently with them. And then maybe set that expectation, right? If they're a client that's looking for a specific property, when I talk to them today to let them know that, hey, man, I just don't see anything else coming on the market in that neighborhood or that matches your price range, but never fear. Like, I'm looking, I'm reaching out to other agents I know, I'm talking with people, trying to locate a property that matches your needs. If I don't see anything come on, I will give you a call and touch base with you on Friday if I have nothing before then, right? Set that expectation of when you're going to communicate with them again. If you're using OneSuite, you can go in there and set that task to pop up on your reminders on Friday morning to give them a call and check in. That way you don't forget. Please don't forget. Okay, step number 6 is we are going to close the transaction. Once we get a property, we find it, we get them in contract, and now we're going to work to get them from contract to close, which is kind of like managing the chaos. Okay, you are going to manage chaos. You want to make sure that you educate every client that you work with. Walk them through the process. Even if they've bought 10 homes, don't assume that they know what the next step is. They may have worked with a really horrible agent in the past that never explained anything to them. Maybe they didn't even know they could have inspections or they could be at the inspections, right? So educate them as the process moves along with what's next, what to expect, what their options are. Okay. We're going to show them the many steps from acceptance to close. Okay, as part of my buyer presentation, I've got a list of, hey, here's what to expect during the transaction. And then we just kind of want to walk them through. It's not like, hey, we're in contract. Here's the 20 steps that you're going to experience over the next 30 days. That would be probably a little overwhelming, but let's take it step by step and let them know what the next step is, what their lender is going to be doing, what the title company is going to be doing, what we are going to be doing, right? And walk them through. The other thing that I prepare my buyers for is like the first week and a half is super busy. They have to get documents to the lender. They got to get paperwork to the title company. They got to get the deposit in. We're scheduling inspections. We're at the property. It's all busy and crazy. 10 days in, there's a thing that happens and everything falls off. The loan's in underwriting. They're clearing the final conditions. Title's done. They don't have to take any money to the title company. We don't need any more information from them. The inspections are done. We've negotiated everything. We're really just waiting for the lender to finish everything. And so we can close escrow on this property. And we kind of go into this like silence mode, which is really funny because, you know, we've been with these people for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, showing them properties almost daily, in communication, seeing them. And then all of a sudden it's almost like you have this breakup in your relationship. And then you're like, oh, I haven't seen them in a while. Don't forget about your client during that time. Prepare them for that time. Let them know that, hey, just so you know, like our inspections are done. We've negotiated repairs. You know, the appraisal's been completed. You've gotten your final conditions into your lender. We're really just waiting for that close of escrow date. So we're not going to see each other every day, right? But don't worry, I'm going to touch base with you a couple times. And, you know, I'm going to call you on this day and touch base with you and give you an update of just kind of what's happening and what's going on. If you have any questions during this time, don't hesitate to reach out to me, right? Like prepare them for that, right? When we talked about setting those expectations. You want to make sure you create systems and processes during that time. Use a checklist to work off of to make sure you don't forget anything or drop the ball on anything. And I do recommend hiring a TC or a transaction coordinator. We have a fabulous one that is in the office that you can utilize. And I do recommend that you do like 1 transaction or 2 transactions without a transaction coordinator. And the reason I recommend that is that I want you to become familiar with all the systems and processes and how it rolls and how to send something out for e-signatures and how to upload things into SkySlope and use the different systems and make sure that your commission demands getting requested. I want you to know how to do it. So if something happens to the transaction coordinator, you aren't dead in the water and flailing and you feel lost and add stress to an already potentially stressful process, right? So if you're familiar with that, you've done it before and something happens to your transaction coordinator, you can be like, no problem, I've got this. I can pick up the slack and move it right along. So I do recommend doing 1 or 2 on your own and then hire that transaction coordinator. Yes, the transaction coordinator is going to cost you some money, and that's going to be every dollar that you spend on a transaction coordinator is money well spent. I promise you, and you don't pay unless the transaction closes. So it's a win-win. Okay. It's like a couple $100 out of your $10,000 commission. Suck it up, hire one after those first couple transactions. And then again, during the transaction, closing the transaction, we want to communicate with the other agent, communicate with your clients, communicate with the lenders, communicate with the title company, communicate with everybody. Don't fall off. I can guarantee you that most stress and most problems occur when people stop communicating. Okay. Any questions so far through step 6? Heather says no. I've got a bunch of pictures that don't move for everybody else. Sad. The sad day. I see no faces, just one. I appreciate Heather. All right. Step number 7 is going to be our post-sale follow-up. This process does not stop when the transaction closes. We have lots of other things that we can do, right? We can send them a thank you gift. I do recommend that you don't do a thank you gift if you're going to do one. Then one, it's not required. I do recommend that you do it, but I recommend that you do it like a month after the close of escrow. Okay. Number 1, at the close of escrow, they're getting keys. So they're excited already. And oftentimes when you get them a gift at the same time they get keys, the keys overshadow the gift. I promise. Years and years of this, I promise. The keys overshadow the gift. Get them a cool keychain to go with the keys that says like your first home or welcome home or just a little house. Somewhere around here I have them, or maybe Shannon has them. Right? Little thank you gift, keychain. It can be branded, cute. Etsy has really cute like little house keychains, and you can probably get them branded with your information. Put that on the keys, call it a day. Month after the close of escrow, do some sort of fun closing gift, thank you gift. Make sure it's branded and long lasting. Okay, the bottle of wine, they're going to drink it and throw it away and forget about you. Okay, we did Cutco for a long, well, we still have Cutco. We're still giving out Cutco. It just wasn't as consistent last year as I should have been. Anyways, it's branded. Cutco will brand the knives to you. It's got our logo on it. It's got our information. We did it in a systematic process. So like the first time you did a transaction with us, you got one set. The next transaction you did with us, you got another set. And then we have like 5 or 6 or 7 sets so that they could build their collection of Cutco knives as they completed transactions with us. And we also did referral gifts as well with Cutco knives. So they also, in addition to knives, have ice cream scoops and pie slicers and pizza cutters and all sorts of things that can be branded. So we did those as referral gifts. So if they refer clients to us that close, they get a referral gift so they can continue to build to their Cutco collection. It's a super cool, nice gift. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't go with Cutco. But I'm just saying, do something that's kind of systematic and easy, because as you get bigger and you've got to scale your business because you've got 4, 5, 6 closings a month, if you're hand picking personalized gift baskets every time you have a closing, you're going to forget, or you're going to get busy and it's not going to happen, or somebody's going to get a better basket than somebody else. And then is that discrimination? I don't know, but they might play it that way, right? So if we're consistent in what we're doing for each and every person, then it makes it a little easier. There's also like gift services, like the beer of the month club or the salsa of the month club. You could sign your clients up for those and send that out as well. Just some fun little things. Just keep in mind that if it's branded, talks with your tax professional, but generally speaking, if it's branded, it counts as a marketing expense, which makes it 100% a write-off, versus if I give you a card to a restaurant, like a gift card, and it's not branded, then you're limited to your write-off at about $25 per person per closing. So if you got a family of 4, that's $100. Okay, so just some things to keep in mind, but talk to your tax professional regarding that. Make sure you're asking for referrals. Ask for referrals, right? That's how we're trying to build our business, is off repeat and referral business is what you really want to aim for. And you can't build your business off repeat and referral business without asking for referrals. So ask for those referrals. Usually leading up to the closing is a great time to do that. But if you didn't do it there, ask for it right after. Who else do you know that needs my services as a real estate professional and help them buy, sell, or invest in real estate? Okay.
Back
Yes.
to the gift. would it be appropriate to ask them, say, hey, I want to get you a closing, a little gift later. What would you prefer? Would you like A, B, or C, or just not, or just go with your gut and just send them whatever?
I would just go with your gut and send them whatever.
Okay.
Yep. Unless you're like, hey, I always send this at the close of escrow. You could have a movie basket, I don't know, a spa basket, or this. Which one do you prefer? Like something like that, where they have a couple choices. You could maybe go that route. Make sure you ask for feedback, right? How did you do? How did the transaction roll? I would recommend asking for feedback in the form of like a questionnaire or something before you ask them to leave reviews for you. Why do I say that? Well, if they had a bad experience and you didn't even realize they were having a bad experience, then we don't want them leaving reviews for you. We only want 5-star reviews. We don't want 2-star reviews. So don't ask them for reviews if they had a bad experience, or that gives you the opportunity to fix it, right? And maybe don't wait until the close of escrow for that feedback. Maybe ask at different points along the way. Like, how is this going? Do you have anything that you wish would be going differently, right? And am I meeting all of your expectations? Talk with them, find out, ask for feedback. And then we're going to make sure they go in our contact relationship manager, our CRM system, if they weren't already in there. If they're already in there, make sure you update their address, because they just bought a house. So they just changed their address. And then we want to have a regular drip campaign to follow up and stay in touch with them at a systematic process and regular intervals, right? So when we've got somebody who's a past client, they fall into that inner circle that we talked about last week. We want to have at least 36 touches on an annual basis where we're interacting with them. We want to make sure they're getting a newsletter or something on a monthly basis. We're going to sign them up on a market update, either through, you can do it through OneSuite, or you can do it through Real Scout. You can sign them up for a market update so that once a month they're being kept up to date of what's going on in their specific neighborhood. We're going to call them once a quarter and check in with them, right? We're going to invite them to a couple of events this next year, and we're going to send them a few things in the mail to make up our 36 touches. Super simple, super easy. But if we make sure we do it in a systematic way, then we don't have to worry about it. There was last week, in the marketing spot, the marketing database, we talked about, I can't think of what the name of the company is, but you can sign your clients up at the close of escrow, $25 or something like that. It's like 25 to 40 bucks. I don't remember exactly. And they'll send out cards to your clients over the next 3 to 5 years, depending on what you want to sign them up for. So it's like home anniversary cards and birthday cards, and then some other random stuff throughout. Super easy, like pay it, put them in the system, forget about it. Okay. So if you want to back them, I don't remember. I will get back to you on that. It's in we covered it on the last session where we talked about marketing and database last Wednesday. Okay. But I'll figure out what it's called, and I'll post it in the link to it in the Foxhole group for everybody.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Super cool little system there. All right. I think that's all I got for 7 post-sale follow-up. Any questions on the 7-step sales process? All right. Effective client communication, right? Sales is relationship building. The reason that used car salespeople get such a bad rap is that they don't take the time to build relationship and find out what your wants and needs are and find out why you need a new car. They're all about, let's find you a car and get it closed. I need money, right? So that's why used car salesmen get a bad rap. They're not horrible people. They just are trained different than you should be trained to sell houses, which is relationship building and building rapport and becoming their best friend. All right, maybe not their best friend, but you do become friends with most of your clients, right? Ford, family, occupation, recreation, dreams. We want most of our conversations to surround that. Okay. When we are building rapport and we're building those relationships with effective client communication, we want to be asking questions and then zip the mouth and listen with the ears because what they have to say is way more important than what you have to say. I can promise when it comes to this relationship and the with your client relationship. It's twice as important to listen and observe than it is to talk. That's why you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Okay? 2 ears, 1 mouth, twice as important to listen.
I love that.
Effective client questions. It's very easy to keep the ball bouncing with questions like these. Can you tell me more about that? What does that look like, or what does that feel like to you? Why is that important to you, and what else? We want to try to make sure that we don't ask close-ended questions, which would be yes or no questions, because that doesn't give us a lot of details, right? Are you feeling okay? Yes, right? Versus, how are you feeling today? Where it actually causes them to have to answer, right? So that's not necessarily a real estate related question, but just yes, no versus closed versus open, right? If we're like, do you want a pool? And they say yes, versus what's important to you about the next house that you purchase, right? We're getting more information. If we're like, hey, would you like a pool? Right? Then we may want to ask, why is that important to you? Right? Because now they've answered yes or no, and we want to dig into that and unpack that with why is that important to you? Okay. We want to make sure that we overcome objections and that we get the close. So when it comes to overcoming objections, right, we've communicated to them, and now they're like, well, what about this? Or how about that? Or I don't know, right? We want to investigate, validate, educate, and close, right? Investigate, validate, educate, and close. So it's going to look something like this. We want to investigate and inquire. All objections that people have are fear-based objections. Fear of losing money, fear of losing face, losing control, not being ready, right? The unknown, right? And the first objection is almost never the actual objection. Okay, that's your like, how are you feeling today? Fine, right? You're probably not really fine. You've got to unpack that and dig deeper. Same thing with like an objection with home buying. So you've got to dig into what is the real concern, right? If somebody's like, well, I'm just not sure we're ready yet. Okay, well, can you tell me a little bit more about that? Why do you not believe that you're ready, right? We want to get to the bottom of it. Well, I don't know. It's just a big step and it just seems a little scary. Okay, well, what about that seems scary to you, right? We're just going to take and we're going to dig until we get to the root cause. Well, my parents, when I was younger, went through the real estate crash and they lost their house, and I just don't want to lose a house. So I just want to make sure I'm prepared for this purchase and that we're ready so that that never happens to my kids, right? So we want to get to the base of like where that fear stems from so that we can educate and overcome. Okay, we want to make sure that we validate their concerns, their objections. It does not mean that we agree with them. It means that we hear them and we understand them. So validation creates safety, right? We want them to lower the shield, and we want to exercise the muscle of patience, right? So some ways to validate, do I have this on here? Oh, I do. Perfect. Is things like, oh, I see, right? If somebody's like, man, I just don't want that to ever happen to my kids. I totally hear you on that, right? My parents went through a similar thing in the crash, or we went through a similar thing, or man, a lot of my friends have that same fear. And, you know, now we're going to move into the education, right? So you could go with, I see, I hear you. I felt that way too when I was in a similar situation. Of course, we're only going to say that when it's actually true, right? People have an uncanny radar for lies. And I probably would have the same concern if I were in your shoes. And if I understand you correctly, right? So we want to validate, we want to ask questions. Oops, wrong way. And then what we're going to do is we're going to educate them, right? Timing is everything. So do not educate too soon. We don't want to jump in with education as soon as they're like, well, I just don't think now's a good time to buy. Well, here's the 10 reasons why it's a good time to buy. No, let's unpack it. Why do you not feel like now is a good time to buy? Let's get to the bottom of that. We want to dig into that, find the real reason. Then we want to validate that. And then we're going to move into education. And it's always good to ask for permission. I think I might have some information that will help. May I share it with you? Right? Because that brings their defenses down versus you coming at them and you feeling like it's a defensive reaction. I can show you a better way. Would you like to hear it? Right? So just some ways there that you can ask for permission to communicate and help educate them on the process to help alleviate those fears and overcome those objections. Okay. Then we want to move towards the close, right? We want to move towards the transitioning them into a client, writing an offer, doing those things that we need to in order to get them into a home. The close is the most overlooked. It's really the most avoided step out of salespeople. Okay, people are afraid to ask for the close. They're afraid that somebody's going to say no. But if they don't ask, then they've gotten a no already, right? So let's ask for it. You cannot lose what you don't have to begin with. Okay. There is power in the word yes. So it's okay to do what's called a soft close, which is, so if I'm understanding you correctly, Heather, you would like a house with 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, right? And she's going to, yeah, that's what I want. And if possible, you would like to have a pool in that home, right? Yes, right? Perfect. Let's go start looking for that home for you that has 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and let's find you one with a pool. Does that sound good? Right? She's going to be like, yes, right? And I'm going to be shaking my head, nodding, and asking for those multiple yeses. So she's in the habit of saying yeses before we get to the close, right? Soft close. Power of yes. Body language is important, right? So shaking my head yes as I'm asking these questions is going to like prompt her to be like, oh, yes, that's what I want. Absolutely. Versus if I'm like, Heather, do you want a house with a pool? She's going to be like, oh, I thought I did, but now I don't. Right? Okay. So body language is important. You can start with that soft close and you're going to ask for the agreement. Okay. Some ways that you can help move forward with the close is, does that make sense? Are you ready to get started? Right? Are you ready to work together now? Are you ready to move forward? Does that handle your concern? Shall we move on to the paperwork now? Right? All simple, easy ways to ask for that close. This instead of that, here's a couple of key words that you may want to work into your vocabulary and some that you may want to take out, especially as we're moving through forming these client relationships, is use paperwork versus contract. Okay. Contract sounds scary. We want to try to avoid scary words and be like, oh, a contract. I don't want to sign a contract. Right. So let's move for the paperwork. Use home versus house. Right? It sounds more warm, welcoming. I would like to live in a home. I don't necessarily want to live in a house. Okay. Instead of, hey, let's go make an offer. Let's pencil this out and see what that looks like. Okay. Just some soft ways to work people into it. Instead of, hey, I need you to sign here. We could say, hey, I need you to put your autograph here, or I need your John or your Henrietta Hancock right here, right? So just some easy ways to like gentle it up just a little bit versus sign here, which sounds scary. So we're going to work to avoid scary or triggering words. Okay, so think about how you're communicating. Think about how you felt when you bought a house or a car, or, you know, how did that feel to you? All right, any questions about that process?
No, ma'am.
Fabulous. All right. We are going to move into learning and personality types. How we communicate with our clients has a lot to do with, number one, how we learn and what our personality type is, and should have much more about how they learn and what their personality type is. So just keep that in mind as we go through this process. I don't know if you guys can all see the grid on the screen because sometimes the gold and the black and the thin words kind of blend in together. But Does everybody have the piece of paper? Piece of paper? Okay, draw a little cross on your piece of paper. On the top, no, on the left-hand side of your cross, you're going to write structured. And on the right-hand side, you're going to write flow with. Okay, now I want you to look at that line where it says structured and where it says flows with. Okay, and plot where you think you fall on that line. Do you fall closer to structured or do you fall closer to flow with? You're not allowed to put it right in the middle where the two lines come together. You've got to be on one side or the other.
Is flow with a nice way of saying hot mess?
Yes, I was going to say no, but yes, Claudia, it could be a way to say hot mess.
I like that term way better.
Okay, we can put that. I'm okay with that. Okay, once you've plotted that line, now on the very top of the graph, or that line where they come together, you're going to write formal or task. And on the bottom, you're going to write informal or relationship. Okay, and when you look at that line, you're going to mark where you fall. Do you fall more into the task-oriented processes, or do you fall more into relationship-oriented? Again, you can't put it right in the middle where the two lines come together. You have to choose one side or the other. All right, now what you're going to do is you're going to draw a line between your two dots and you're going to connect them to see where you fall into this graph. Okay, I'm going to show you here in a second. Does it lose it? It does lose it. All right, hold on. We're going to go through all these personality types. It's going to help you communicate not only with your clients better, but probably your spouse and your kids. If you see this and you start thinking about where they all sit on this graph. So just a little heads up on that, right? You're going to think about how are people similar? How are people different? So if you fell into the upper left quadrant, you are the controller or the director. Okay. Some people would call that like a high D. I fall into that quadrant. I don't actually fall into that quadrant. I'm like well into that. I'm not even close to the other quadrants. Just a little heads up. Insight about Amy. I don't even come close to the other quadrants. In the upper right-hand side, you have the analyzer or the thinker. So controller, director, analyzer, the thinker. Bottom right is the supporter or the relator. And bottom left would be the promoter or the socializer. Okay, right? Controller, analyzer, supporter, promoter. Okay, your director is going to be the take charge and starts assigning tasks to get it done. Your analyzer is going to be opens up the spreadsheet and starts creating a checklist of to-dos. Your supporter is going to be how can I help and what do you need me to do? And your promoter or your socializer is going to be like, let's have a party. Okay, so does everybody have where they fall on the graph? Is anybody surprised as to where they fall on the graph? All right, why is this important? As already mentioned, this is going to help you relate to people better. Number one, it's going to help you understand yourself better in how you communicate and what your styles are and what your shortcomings are. And number two, if we can identify where other people fall on this graph, we can change our communication style to better relate to our friends, our family, our spouses, and our clients. Okay, so the controller or the director is agreeable, likable, friendly, a good listener, cooperative, loyal, dependable, patient, considerate, warm, and sensitive are other characteristics. I don't feel like, hold on. That is not accurate. So somewhere I screwed this up. Hold on just a second. That's right. That's right. All right, hold on just a second. Now I'm gonna have to open up my little booklet. Give me 2 seconds. Because this information is misinformation. Oops. All right. Give me 2 seconds. Drive. Oh, wrong one. Hold on. I went into the wrong drive. Because let me just tell you, the controller is not pleasant. Oh, okay. Let's see here. Materials. No. All right, I'm almost there. It's opening. It's thinking about it. Almost. All right. The director or the controller is independent, ambitious, confident, dominant, decisive, goal-oriented, takes initiative, and takes authority. Okay, that's their characteristics. They are fast and decisive when it comes to pace. They are in charge, is what they want to be. Under tension, under stress, they dictate or they assert themselves. They are irritated by inefficiency and indecision. They seek productivity. For decisions, you want to give them options and probable outcomes and let them decide. They like you to be to the point, right? Don't like give me the long answer, go with the short answer. Fears are loss of control. Their priority is the task or the results, right? They're looking for the results. Their shortcomings are they can come across as demanding, pushy, critical, impatient, overwhelming, or unfeeling. Make sure to support their goals and their decisions are decisive. Okay, so that would be the controller or the director.
Amy, that doesn't sound like you at all.
It is. Ask my husband. Oh, all right. The analyzer or the thinker
I guess
is what?
you're good at hiding it, I guess.
Good at hiding it. The analyzer or the thinker is serious, orderly, and systematic. They're a perfectionist, precise, and they take cautious actions. Their pace is slow and systematic. They always want to be correct. Under tension, they're going to withdraw or avoid. They're irritated by surprises and unpredictability. So if your client is a analyzer, you want to make sure to prepare them in advance for potential outcomes. They seek the facts, data, and accuracy. For decisions, you want to make sure to give them the facts, the details, and documentation. They like you to be precise. They fear embarrassment. Their priority also is the task or the process. Their shortcomings are they avoid risk, they procrastinate, they're overcritical, they may appear unemotional, and they may appear too serious. You want to make sure to support their thoughts and their decisions are deliberate. Okay, that's the analyzer or the thinker. The supporter or the relator. This is not also, for some reason it didn't update. All right, so this isn't accurate either. They're agreeable likable, friendly, they're a good listener, they're cooperative, they're loyal and dependable, they're patient, considerate, and warm and sensitive. Oh, you know what? This one's up here. There we go. Their pace is slow and easy. So this says controller, but this is really supporter. They want to be liked. Under tension, they submit, right? They're irritated by insensitivity and impatience. They seek attention. For decisions, you need to give them reassurance and assurances. They like you to be pleasant. They fear confrontation. Their priority is maintaining the relationship. Their shortcomings are they lack direction. They're too eager to please. They're unstructured in efforts. They tend to give in, and they like to go with the crowd. You need to support their feelings, and their decisions are considered, right? They consider their options. So that would be for the supporter or the relator. If you are a promoter or the socializer, you are talkative, gregarious, energetic, fun-loving, intuitive, impulsive, spontaneous, undisciplined about time. You are fast and spontaneous. You are admired.
Precious.
Under tension, you might be, you might attack or come across as sarcastic. You're irritated by boredom and routine. You seek recognition. For decisions, you want incentives and testimonials. What did other people do in this situation? Right? They want you to be stimulating. They fear loss of prestige. Their priority is relationships and interacting with others. Their shortcomings are they could come across as pushy, no concern for details, disorganized, egotistical, impatient, and unrealistic. You need to support their ideas, and their decisions are going to be spontaneous.
Amy, can you go back to the supporter? Because mine like froze. And I didn't
Yes,
that one.
the supporter is this one here. Agreeable, likable, friendly, good listener, cooperative, loyal and dependable, patient, considerate, warm, sensitive. They're slow and easy. They want to be liked. Under tension, they submit. They're irritated by insensitivity and impatience. They seek attention. For decisions, give them reassurance and assurances. Like you to be pleasant. They fear confrontation. They maintain relationships is their priority. They may lack direction, too easy to please, unstructured in efforts, tend to give in, and they prefer to go with the crowd. Support their feelings, and their decisions are considered.
Oh, okay, never mind. It just had the wrong thing on the left. I saw
It
it.
did have the wrong thing on the left.
I was like, wait, I didn't see that one. Okay.
Anybody have any other questions about the 4 personality types? Except for the fact that they're labeled wrong on my slideshow. Okay, we want to figure out how to interact and identify these people when we interact with them, right? So that we can interact with them on their level. All right, in addition, there are 3 different types of learning and communication style. Hold on, now I'm on the wrong screen. All right, there we go. So the first one is going to be visual, right? They need to see it. These people may speak rapidly. They think others are too slow. They often share first, and they see that you are there, right? Learning and communication style for a visual learner, right? Some things that commonly used phrases with a visual learner. An eyeful appears to be, bird's eye view, catch a glimpse of. That's very clear cut, right? Dim view, eye to eye, flashed on, get perspective on this. If you learn these commonly used phrases, this is going to help you identify what somebody's learning style is so that you can make sure to adjust and adapt to them, right? Get perspective on, get scope on, hazy idea in light of, in person, right? In view of. Somebody who's a visual learner is going to want to meet in person. Make a scene, mental image, mind eye, paint a picture, right? Plainly see, that's pretty as a picture, see to it, short-sighted, showing off, sight for sore eyes, staring off into space, right? So those are just some commonly used phrases for somebody who's a visual learner. Notice they're mostly like visual type phrases. The second learning and communication style would be an auditory learner. Okay, they need to hear it. They're going to cock their head and tap their fingers or foot. They're going to speak in a moderate pace, neither too fast nor too slow, but very steady. They often share second and they want to be heard. Okay, hold on, we're going to go back here. If you're visual, something that you may want to say to a visual learner is, there is a home that I'm sure you would like to see. This home is in a beautiful neighborhood. It's very picturesque. Even the doorbell has a unique design. You'll certainly see for yourself that the rooms appear large and have the right colors. If you go to the balcony, you can see some really nice scenery, right? I'm sure you'll see this as an excellent choice. You want to describe it to a visual learner. Describe it. For a auditory learner, yet there's another home that I'm sure you would like to hear about, right? Here's a home that I'd like you to see. I would like you to hear about this home for an auditory learner. This home is in a quiet neighborhood and is very sound construction. Even the doorbell has a nice tone, right? You'll certainly say to yourself, the rooms are large and have the right tones. If you go to the balcony, you'll hear the birds chirping and the sound of the breeze. I'm sure you'll see for yourself that this is an excellent choice. See how we changed the same phrase to adjust to somebody who is going to be taking things in on an auditory level versus a visual level. Commonly used phrases for an auditory learner: blabbermouth, clear as a bell, clearly expressed, call on, describe in detail, earful, express yourself, give an account of, give me your ear, heard voices, hidden message, hold your tongue, right? Loud and clear, power of speech, outspoken, rings a bell, state your purpose, to tell the truth, tongue-tied, tuned in, tuned out, unheard of, right? Voice and opinion within hearing range. Some phrases that might hear from or would help relate to an auditory learner. The third type of learning style is kinesthetic, right? They need to touch it and feel it. Your child that walks through the grocery store and has to touch everything on the way through the grocery store, this right here. They're going to speak more slowly. They think others are too fast or quick. They often share last, and they want to feel connected. Okay, touch. There is more than one home that I'm sure you'll find satisfying. This third home is in a warm neighborhood and very solidly built. Even the doorbell gives a welcoming feeling. You'll certainly sense that the rooms are spacious and have the touch. If you go to the balcony, you can feel the warm sun and the light breeze, and I'm sure you'll feel that this is an excellent choice. Right? See how we changed that? Same house. We just changed the description to meet with somebody who needs to touch and feel things. Commonly used phrases for somebody who is kinesthetic is all washed up, boils down, chip off the old block, come to grips with, cool, calm, collected, firm foundation, floating in air, get a handle on, get the dirt off, get your goat. I've never heard that one. Heated argument, hold it, hold on, hot-headed, keep your shirt on, lay all your cards on the table, moment of panic, not following you, pull some strings, sharp as a tack, slip to my mind, smooth operator, so-so, start from scratch, stiff upper lip, right? So just some things that you might hear from somebody or would help relate to somebody that learns with this style. Okay, so today we covered the 7 steps in the sales process. We talked about how to overcome objections, right? We talked about how to identify somebody's personality so that we can relate to them in their personality profile. And we also talked about how to address somebody's learning style so that we can more clearly communicate with people in a way that they can receive it. Does anybody have any questions before we wrap up for the day?
No, ma'am. Thank you. That was very helpful.
Good. Fabulous. In addition, Make sure you take care of your Rev Up 1 habit, right? 3 calls, 3 adds to the database, 6 notes, right? So we're going to have 3 conversations about real estate on a daily basis, not this week, 3 on a day. 3 adds to your database each day and 6 notes going out. If you'll notice, you got 3, 3, and 6. You could send 3 notes to the people that you talked to and 3 notes to the people that you added to your database. Super easy to take care of your notes that go out. I highly recommend sending them out in the mail and not via like text message notes, because people like getting stuff in the mail. And if you really want to step up your game, I highly recommend going with a 10-10-10, where we're making 10 calls about real estate on a daily basis for 50 for the week. We're adding 10 people to our database on a daily basis for 50 to the week. And we're sending out 10 notes on the day for a total of 50 notes going out per week. If you're sending out 10, 10, and 10, and you're sending out those thank yous, you could do like 5 in the mail and 5 via text or whatever. But I still recommend doing physical in the mail. People just appreciate that more. So does anybody have any questions before we wrap up for today? Oh, Abby posted in the chat box to log your attendance. So open up that chat box, click on that. It'll help us track so that the office can keep track of who's attending our Rev Up sessions. And we won't have Rev Up tomorrow because we have the office meeting. Remember, they're changing the location of the office meeting. So it's going to be at Travis Credit Union at 9 a.m. If you show up a little early, then you get like coffees and pastries, I think. And then we'll resume on Thursday at 4 o'clock. Okay, Thursday, 4 o'clock, same link. And we'll be doing a tech training of some sort. I don't remember what this week's tech training is, but we're going to dive into that on Thursday. I think we're doing one design. I think we're talking one design this week for our tech training. So thank you all for joining me, and we will see you on Thursday.
Have a great day, Amy.
You too.
Thanks, Amy.
You're welcome.